confused. I thought like in North Korea, like love is a shameful thing. That we cannot like hold hands in public places, we cannot hug or kiss. And in that movie, I just couldn't believe why someone made a movie out of this such a shameful story. How this man dies for love, not for the revolution. In school, I didn't go to school like all my friends. I learned different things. It was not about like science, biology, or history. I did not know what Big Bang was. All I learned was how our dear leader defeated American bastards and gave us our freedom and the country. And that was my education. Like even in math class, we were like teacher teaching us like there are 4 American bastards. You killed 2 of them. Then how many American bastards left to kill? So every single thing is a propaganda. Even our songs, books, movies, everything was about the revolution, the war. So to me, just seeing something purely about human story, that just gave me some sense of freedom and humanity. But still, I had no idea the rest of the world would be like this. And that movie gave me some taste of freedom, but still I did not know that I could escape even if I escape what's happening out there. I didn't not know that was an option. But when I was, I think 9 or 10, my family got in trouble. My father was a party member, but you know, in North Korea right now, the doctor's salary is less than only $1. And they cannot even like afford 1 pound of rice with that money. So you really cannot rely on the salary, even as a doctor. Not to even mention no more workers. So the systems collapsed, especially after the Soviet Union collapsed. The North Korean government, the rationing didn't really work. So my father was engaged in the black market. But when I say black market, means not like drug dealing or anything, weapon selling. He really traded like some rice, clothes, clocks, and later metals. He was trading copper, silver, gold. This trading is illegal, so he was sent to prison. He was sentenced to more than 10 years. And you know, I lost my father. I did not even know how he got sentenced. I did not even know where he was. You know, in North Korea, we don't really have lawyers and anything that's defend the people. Just whatever government tells us, we have to accept it. So once he's gone, I was marked as a prisoner's daughter. My life was changed because everything in society determined by your status. So if my grandpa committed some crime, that affects me. So a lot of people actually here really ask me, so people in North Korea are stupid? Why they don't revolt? Why don't they rise and to fight? And so first of all, if you don't know that you're a slave, how do you fight? And second of all, if you speak up, just even say, one day I go on the street, I say, this regime is bad and I want something else. Then I'm not the only one who's getting killed, but the 3 generations of my family being killed. Who can bear the consequences? Because of you, hundreds of your people, they don't even know they are related. There was one case, the very high official defector, that he escaped to South Korea. And because of him, over 300 people were sent to prison camp. These people they didn't even know that they were related to this person. And that's how the system oppresses people. So because of my father's sentence, I was marked in the down class, and I couldn't afford to go to school. Of course, the government says school is free, we don't have taxes in North Korea, it's a communist paradise. But you know, in order to go to school, we had to bribe teachers and pay other things. So then what do? I lived in the nature without my parents. My mother also got interrogated. So like a lot of us, many kids right now in North Korea, that I was going to mountains, picking up the plants, mushrooms, anything that I could find, like that was edible in the nature. And I go to river, wash my clothes, and in the fall I was catching dragonflies and grasshoppers, but they are really good nutritious food. And I was eating like that and lived. So it's very hard to comprehend today that I'm living in this world where people are talking about diet. Do you know what's the most desirable man in North Korea? One, bored. You gotta be bored. That means it shows your status. You have good nutrition. You have to have big belly like Kim Jong-un, and you gotta be really big. That is the most handsome and desirable man in North Korea. So Kim Jong-un is really handsome for our standard there. And I'm now in the southern in the world. Our problem is actually having too much. And my problem was having too little. It's really saddens me, how the world became this way. How do some people is so stressed out by having too much, but people are dying in another part of the world and dying for just food. I came to the world and I learned about these ideas of human rights, and I even heard about things like animals' rights. First time when I went to South Korea, I heard the word animals' rights. I just couldn't believe. What do you mean animals have rights? I didn't even know I had rights. But in our world, animals have rights, which is a wonderful thing. But in North Korea, we don't know that. We don't even know that we have rights. So with all that, I was there, and then when I was 13, we had to make the ultimate choice. That was escaping or dying, because we were not even couldn't even find anything to eat by that point. So my sister was 16 years old, and I was 13. As I said, we live in northern part of North Korea, and we could see lights, electricity lights coming from China. So there's a confusion, people say, so how did you watch Titanic if you didn't have electricity? So here's the thing. Government wants us to make us happy, especially during the holidays like Kim Il-sung's birthday, Kim Jong-il's birthday. We call that, when the sun was born, because they are gods. So we get the electricity they're on their birthdays. Sometimes a few hours, sometimes 10 minutes, or sometimes even one day. So to finish a movie like Titanic, something like 3 hours movie, it can take months, because once we get electricity, it doesn't last for that long. So I barely, that's how I watch the movie, but we don't have this constants of electricity all the time. But at night, as a young girl, I looked up China, and they are so bright. I see on the road there are cars, and the apartments all lit up. And I kind of knew that they might just have food there if I go there. But I did not know that what it meant for us as North Koreans to go to China. So at the 16, when my sister, she escaped to China with her friend. I was initially planning to go with her, but I couldn't go because I had a really bad stomachache. I went to hospital 7 days before I was escaped. That was 2007. I escaped March 31st, but 7 days before I went to hospital. And then, we don't have really facilities to see with the machine what's wrong within your body. Just doctor just pushed in my belly and said, I think you have appendix. I was really in the bad pain, so they opened up my tummy that afternoon without any painkiller. I was so faint and come back and faint and come back. And once he opened up my tummy and he said, oh, actually it's not appendix. She just got malnutrition and just infection in her tummy. But what he would do, he just took my appendix away anyway and close back up. So I'm planning to sue him when I go back. They opened the bed back up and I was in the hospital. That's when the darkest moment, I think, another darkest moment in my life. People in the hospital keep telling me, actually we don't die from the disease, but we die from the infection. Literally in the hospital, the 1 needle, they inject every patient with it because we cannot afford the needles. They use beer bottles to use drops. From the hospital to the bathroom outside, we don't have the bathroom inside our building. We have to go outside. And between that, there's piles of human bodies. And it's really ugly, right? You see the rats eating human bodies, and they eat human eyes first. And this is very normal in North Korea, seeing human bodies dead on the street and just treated like trash. My mother asked the nurse, why don't you guys just move it up? It's so ugly on the way to bathroom. And the nurse said, you don't have gas to move the bodies. And we just knew that whatever we had to do, we just had to get out of that place. That was it, living here. I was 13 and my mother was, I think, 40. She was quite young. But in North Korea, people die very early. I thought she was like grandma back then. We found a broker that sent my sister to China. And that lady told me that she was able to help us to go to China. We didn't question why she was helping us. We just were so desperate, we wanted to escape and go get some food. March 31st in 2007, we were guided by some brokers and we were on the river that was between China and North Korea. So every 10 meters, there are guards with a gun. They are ready to shoot us, shoot anyone who crosses the border. But the broker who was sending us to China actually bribed the guard. So we walked across that frozen river. And I was always thinking, I should not get shot, I should not get shot. And we arrived in China safely without getting shot. But the first thing I saw was my mother being raped. And the price for us to be going to China was actually being trafficked. I think a lot of us know that China ended the one-child policy recently. And that one-child policy kept boys more than girls in China. So there were just not enough women. So especially men with mental disability and poor status, those men cannot afford the wives. So what they do, they buy women. That's where we are needed today, even this day. North Korean girls like me are being sold. I was 13 and they said, I cannot go with my mother because they bought us as a separate two people. So they had to sell my mom and sell me. My mom was being sold for less than $100 and I was sold for less than $300. I was expensive compared to my mother because I was a virgin and young. I think from that moment, I stopped being a child and stopped believing in humanity. Human beings were the most scariest thing in the world to me, and especially I could not just trust men again. I saw the worst things that human beings can do to each other. And that was my life, 2 years in China. I did a lot of things. I was being sold, being raped, and I was separated from my mom and I found her back. And I brought my father to China, but he was passed away in China because of the colon cancer he got in the prison camp. During the 2 years stay in China, one day we met a North Korean other defector, and she told us that if we go to South Korea, we can be free. And that was the first time I heard the word called free. And I asked her, what do you mean I will be free? And she said, if you go to South Korea, you can watch movies without like sent to prison camp. And you can wear jeans that I'm wearing now. Because in North Korea, we don't have freedom to choose what we wear. God was telling us what kind of clothes that we wear, what kind of haircut that we have, what kind of songs that we can listen to. Everything is controlled. But in South Korea, that she told me, freedom means wearing jeans and watching movies. And to me, that was enough to risk my life. But going to South Korea was not easy. For that, we had to actually go to find the missionaries that were helping us to escape. We met missionaries, and they told us, if you believe in God, if you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, we are gonna help you to go to South Korea. By the time I was 15 years old, I was really wondering, why do I have to believe something all the time so I can be, like, I can just survive? I mean, same thing in North Korea, they told us Kim Il-sung is God and his son loves us, they never die. But suddenly this mission is telling me there's a God and Jesus Christ. And there was gods, they know how to, what I think. And just they say, you gotta believe it. So it was not very difficult. My fellow defector lady told me, it's very simple, honey. You just plug Kim Il-sung to God and Kim Jong-il to Jesus. And that made perfect sense for me. God, that's a Savior, and God, He loves us, and we gotta suffer for Him. So I became unbelievably Christian. I proved my faith to like Christians, and one day they told us we were ready to go to South Korea. That means crossing Gobi Desert from China to Mongolia. If we are lucky enough to make it to Mongolia, then we have to find the Mongolian soldiers and tell them that we are refugees. We want to go to South Korea. In 2009, it was end of February, the Gobi Desert can drop even like minus 40 degrees at night in the desert. We chose the coldest time because during the summer there are more like security. But in this winter time, really people don't think who would cross desert right now in this cold winter. So we do like 8 people in our team, we do 1 baby. We started our journey. This mission gave us 1 compass and some few breads, and that's all our positions were. We started walking. It was the coldest and the longest of night that I've ever experienced. I was walking and walking. It got really cold, and we were chased by like those soldiers. We don't even know who they were. And I wanted to give up so many times in that journey. And then we couldn't use the compass in the middle of the journey because if we turn the lights to see, then soldiers can see the light. And they can follow us, and they can find where we are. So then what we do, I looked up the sky, and there were stars. And I saw the northern star, and I said, let's follow that star. I think that's towards the north. Following the stars, I remember just being just alone. Like, it just felt like even this universe abandoned us. That I was punished so hard that I just couldn't believe why I was born in North Korea. Why do I have to go through all this because of my birthplace? That was just so unfair to me. Luckily, we didn't die in the desert. We got caught by the Mongolian soldiers. And they did eventually help us to go to South Korea. So we spent a few months in the refugee camp in Mongolia, and then sent to South Korea. And I thought, that's it. All the hardships over, my life is gonna be different. But it wasn't. Learning freedom was so difficult. The first thing they told me in South School was, why don't you introduce yourself? I never introduced myself. I never allowed to call myself I.